Blue shirt.
Yeah, you say you were skeptical from the beginning to some degree about the viability of this project as a profit maker.
Whoa. Start again. I'm sorry, I didn't get all the words.
You said that you were a little bit doubtful regarding this film's potential as a profit maker.
Correct.
I wonder how you approach the money people with the project that you yourself aren't fully confident in. Do you have to kind of give them a snow job?
No. No, I was under contract. I had 3 pictures to do for First Artist. I have no salary up front and a percentage of the action. And I had $3 million to work with, and I had to put it on the screen. And the thing was, the reason I'm not getting paid is because I have control of what I want to do. Although once I popped the button, it was getting great bad reactions. It was bad. No, I don't think it'll make a lot of money, but it might. I don't know. It breaks even a low. If it's 3, we brought it in for 2.5, and it'll break even at 2 times under negative. Probably come in a little under 6, and maybe 6.2 at the most. So it'll probably see some bucks. But that wasn't the reason. You know, I had my choice of doing what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't have any opposition from anybody as far as anybody having to snow people because it's not going to make bucks.
See, as I understand it, First Artist was designed really to let actors do the things that they wanted to do. It's kind of a cooperative involving yourself and I think Poitier and
Barbra Streisand and Dusty Hoffman.
Right. And as I said, the idea is not to take money up front, but to be able to do a project and then participate in the rewards if there are some. And you hope there will be some. Anyway, yes, in the back.
Yes. Have you ever thought about giving up your acting and going into producing?
Yes. Yes, I'm thinking on it. I really am. I'd like to quit at the top, and I'd like to make contributions as a producer and maybe direct. And then if something came for a good old character part, I'd be all ready.
Yes, in front.
Speaking as producer, what do you think are the strongest and weakest points of this film?
The strongest and the weakest? Nice.
I'll make notes.
That was okay. The weakest points, I think, probably. I'm not objective about my performance, so that we got to leave. Whatever. I think because of the purity and the nature of it, it's dull. And so, in the first beginning, the first 20 minutes are very slow and very dull. Okay. I think that we shot the interiors in 5 interiors. There's no exteriors there. That's all interior, okay? I think that works against you. It's closed in. I think that people basically will, if they're heady, they'll go with it. If there's an escape mechanism, I don't think they'll want to get to it. On the strong side of it, I think they're wonderful performances from these actors in this play. I think the technique in this film, the lighting, the camera, and all of that, in our craft, and I worked my buns off for about a month and a half in a little cement room, is that in our craft, people are going to like it because it ain't no bullshit. There was no compromise. We got it done. That's going to work for it. And also, I think what it says, because of Mr. Ibsen, is going to work for us, because no matter what, you'll all go out here and go to bed or go have a beer or take your lady or whatever. But you'll think about this a little while, what was said there. And I think all of us will. That's why I did it. So therefore, if they catch on to what's said there and it does something to them, that's a good point. I don't know about bucks, but it's a good point for our team.
Yes, back there.
Yeah, you said earlier that you had done some production even though you hadn't gotten screen credit for it, but that this was the first thing you had done that you were really proud of for yourself. Should you not act anymore in the near future but go more strongly into production, would you be working in films of this type or more of the entertainment films?
Okay, you asked me 4 questions and I'll try and answer them. I started getting educated in production when I first did a film called The Blob. That's how I started. And from there, I went into television to do Wanted Dead or Alive for 3 years, which I enjoyed very much. It was a half-hour show, and took 3 days to shoot it, 2 days out, 1 day in, and I did 120-some shows. That gave me preparation for production. And I do love production, but I don't like the bullshit that goes with it. It really, the pecking order in anything we do in society today is spooky, because you constantly have to play the game, and there's no different in our business. Out of that, I ended up being lucky enough to get better parts, make better money, more sophisticated productions. And I learned my craft being exposed. Now, I never was interested in producing on screen. I have an ego. I mean, I'd love to see Steve McQueen produced by. But I thought it was bad for my audience because I think people would like just to see me act, and they're not interested in whether I'm involved in producing or not. And I wasn't secure enough about my own conceptions. And there was many things I did that I was proud of, I could have put my name on, but I wanted to get someone that knew more than I did, so I could get educated by him. So by paying his salary, I could learn from him, which I did. And this is not the only thing I'm proud of I thought I put my name on. I did it because now the movies have changed. It's not a game anymore. It's big bucks, heavy bucks. And those people play for keeps out there. And they have a way, there's a lot of ways a man can be hurt, or a woman, in business. They can hurt your head, they can hurt you financially, but they can gut you. They can cause that thing to pop up in your throat a couple of times a day. You start thinking about it a little bit. If I have my name on there, they can no longer palm me off as just a candy-ass movie star who they've got to be easy with, even though I've used it for refuge sometimes when things got heavy and hot. This puts me out front as an executive, so therefore they have to deal with me in the exhibiting distributing market. And then the last one, I don't remember what the last part of it.
Kind of movie that you get involved with now?
I don't know. I really honestly don't know. I'm sure tired of shooting them up. And I'm not saying, I've been a whore in my life, and I don't think I'll be one again real soon, though. But I have been, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do a movie, and so forth, that has to do with just escapism, but it would have to be good. I would love to do something that's meaningful, really mean, and it's hard to find it. I mean, in my age caliber, and I'm not 26 anymore, so if the young thing comes along, it ain't going to be for me. I've got to go the other direction, and that leaves me to the guy like this, and that's not too good for me. So I don't know. I'm starting to feel a little silly about it.
Yes, the girl on the stripe.
Okay. I was just wondering, how long did it take to produce the, did it take 6 months, a year?
To produce it?
Yeah.
Well, it usually, this film, I would say closer to 7.5 months, but that doesn't, not the execution, I mean, this film was shot in 9 weeks, but, almost 9 weeks, but it was what went on before and what went on afterwards. It's like Thalberg said, many movies are made in the editing room. We did some retakes, 2 retakes on me because I was just awful, and they had to go in and do a retake. And I couldn't remember my lines. And then we went back and fooled a lot with the sound. We spent a lot of time with sound, getting the gauge. Because a lot of times, audiences will sit in a film and not know there's something wrong, but they won't like it. And I can't tell you what it would be, but I know that if you get the sound perfect and you get your sight value perfect, then if it goes down, you've shot your best shot and you can't compromise. So in that sense, we had to make sure everything was right. And that took a lot longer than it would normally, but we didn't have a big carry-all. We didn't have a big force to carry. Once the film was completed, I had a very little payroll to handle so I could stretch it and take the time to work on it.
It's down from.
Yes, Steve, since you voiced an obligation to your audiences in terms of themes that you might portray as a producer, that obligation, I guess, has obviously evolved or changed given your career. Where does it stand today? What types of obligations do you feel towards your audiences?
My audience? I've always felt a very strong responsibility towards my audience. I've never gypped them in my life, and I never will. And I feel that very, very strongly. But my obligation has got to be to myself. In other words, I'm not late to work. I never cheat them. And I always felt the things that I did before when I was in the physical area, if I took a chance, I really took it, and not for any other reason except that I think it looks foul if you don't. But you've got to believe in what you're doing, like you believe in what you do. I believe in what I do. And if I'm shooting my best shot for me, then I'm doing my best for the audience. If I try to figure out what they want and get devious and so forth, then I'm not doing good for them or me, if that's answered in any way.
Yes, in the back.
You know, I've always liked the film The Reavers that you were in. I was wondering how you got into that project.
I was railroaded. I sang in that picture too. Well, I think because the man who wrote it, Faulkner, you know, it was really a jar for me, and I loved what they had to say. You know, I loved the black and white scene there, you know, and I loved the feeling of our country then. You know, I could see it on film, and I loved the whole feeling of it, and I loved doing it. I really enjoyed that.
It's coming back on television the week of September 18th. I think it's around the 20th or the 21st, sometime like that. I was just writing about it today. So yes, wait a minute, somebody who hasn't asked before. Yes, back there. The glasses on, I think. Yeah.
In the town meeting, when Hofstad announced you, he was definitely a Judas figure, especially with the black beard. You were a Christ figure with you didn't look like him. How do you feel about being a Christ figure?
I didn't look at it that way, but one thing about film that I think is so constructive, and that is, like reading, it allows you to make up your mind as you see it. And that's really what it is. You're right about him. He became the heavy, in a sense, but did he really? You know, and for me being the Christ figure, people have mentioned that before. That never occurred to me. I think people will make things out of film that aren't even there. And I think that's one of the wonderful things. I don't mean that as a slam, but I mean, this is what you see. And other people will see different things and the same thing. And other people have seen what you see. But it was not my intention. I'll tell you why I looked the way I looked, was because I fashioned my character after the first gentleman that I saw a photograph of that did the play on stage in New York, in Norway in 1902. And I copied his wardrobe and the way he looked, because Dr. Stockman was a bit mad. And the thing, you know, he wasn't right either. I mean, he was busy, you know, pushing buttons, and he handled everything wrong, although what he was trying to do was right. What I saw in the film was everyone turning against him one at a time. His friends, his best friends, his wife. And his daughter was the only one that really kind of looked at it with any clear picture of perhaps his survival. His children turned against him in the end. And that's what I think that the element of truth was all about there. It has to do with the common man. And the common truth about the common man we've lost in our society. Everything is so complex now that nobody even talks in the first dimension. We all talk in a third dimension. And if in places I do business, nobody comes up and just asks me what they want. It gets so flowery. And I feel that there's a very strong parallel between who founded this country, these guys who didn't compromise. When they shook your hand, they looked you in the eye, and they kept their word. And if they said they were going to do something, they came damn close to doing it. I think Ibsen was saying the same thing, even though I know he was hurt by when they knocked the hell out of his first play. Excuse me, man. And I think that's what, you know, but the way he handled the press at the time. And I think we're into a lot of yellow journalism at this time. And what's going on? I watched Nixon on television, and one of the things that he did say is that the media has gotten so powerful, and movies are part of that interpretation. And I'm 47 years old, and believe me, I don't know my ass. But I do know this, that I see difference in our society over the years that I've spent wheeling and dealing and staying alive that it's changed. People aren't straight. Very rarely are they straight in business anymore. And you see the people who are starting to get straight are really starting to come out and shine. It's going to be up to you.
Yes, in the blue.
Yes, this film obviously created a challenge for you, Steve McQueen, the actor, to meet. I'm curious to know what kind of goals you were hoping to get out of the film.
I was only frightened of being very bad. That's the first thing. I just didn't want to be embarrassing. And I wanted to do it because what I just said before, but I just wanted something to be done that I felt was pure and that had to do with somebody who wrote something that I really, really believed in. And it was a classic, and I'm an actor. And that's a responsibility towards my craft to do one classic, and I've done that.
Let's see, yes, over here.
Where did you get the two boys in that film?
I'm sorry?
The two boys?
The two boys, we cast them, and George had used the older boy, the younger boy. He's funny. He was the one that did the wonderful thing with the bear up in Canada. I've forgotten the name of it. Was Grizzly Adams? He was a little boy than that, and I tell you, that kid was really something. Whew. He's wonderful and a very creative kid, but you'd have to pull him down off the ropes and
We'll take about, I think, maybe 2 more questions, Steve. Is that okay with you?
Whatever.
All right. Let's see. On the aisle there.
Going back to the problem of advertising, I see a whole new light of what you're thinking about. This kind of, it's a more mature attitude.
Of what?
This more mature, not mature, but ideal of acting where you want to display something more than just exhibition. But how are you going to relate that to the audience? To say, people are going to look in the paper, they're going to see Steve McQueen in An Enemy of the People. Mm-hmm. Most, I'm sure people haven't heard of Ibsen, I have. And, people are going to go to the ideal that they're going to go see it, and then they see Steve McQueen kill a bunch of people or, come out the hero. And I can't help thinking, just from my opinion, that if I came to a movie with that attitude, I'd walk away kind of disgusted and disappointed that I didn't see Steve McQueen that way. And how do you plan to, get to the people's ideal of what the movie they're going to see?
That's a very
spending a lot of time wondering about how they're going to advertise.
That's a very intelligent question, and this is exactly what I'm fighting with right now. And I don't know the answer because I don't know who my audience is. I honestly don't. I think there's a big danger where the audience is going in and getting angry. At first I thought, well, could we educate people in the United States about Ibsen? I wanted to use an Ibsen logo, Henrik Ibsen, and that didn't work. And the studios are as confused as I am, and they don't know what to do either. So we don't know what the answer is. And we were sneaking at trying to